Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will be making Santa wreath Christmas ornaments. They're fun and easy, so let's get started. To make the jelly roll wreath ornament, we'll start with a jelly roll strip. This is a 2.5-inch strip of fabric from the Merry Little Christmas collection, designed by Tilda. First, I'm going to cut off the selvage. Then I'm going to cut this in half, right on the fold, because one strip will make 2 ornaments. I'm going to sew this into a little I'm going to sew a channel into it, and then I'm going to insert a shower curtain ring into the channel. Here are my shower curtain rings. These are from the dollar store. They look like this in a package of 12. So this is a very economical project. Now for my strips, I will fold them in half, and I'm going to stitch from the fold about somewhere between 1/2 inch and 5/8 of an inch over. You know, you kind of have to get the hang of exactly which shower ring that you have, and then it has to be tight. You want it to be tight so that it has those nice little pleats all the way around, but it also has to be big enough to get around this bump. Now yours might not have this big bump right here, but mine does. So I find that, you know, right a tiny bit more than 1/2 inch is really the right distance from the fold. So I like to pin, of course, I'm a pinner, and I'll pin this all the way down and then stitch. I'm using as close as I have to a matching thread. I don't have exactly this color, but I think it'll be okay. Now, I like to start by sewing just, you know, maybe 1 inch or 2 to make sure it's not too loose or too tight. So I'm going to start with just 1 inch, and then I'll try to fit it over the ring. All right, I like to insert this end just because I have, like, you know, kind of the little peg there for sort of a starter. And I want to make sure it's not too tight or too loose. Now it is going to be a little bit of a struggle to get it started, but I think that's going to work. So I'll show you with a ruler. From the stitches to the edge is, see, there's a 1/2 inch, there's 5/8 right there, so it's kind of halfway between 1/2 inch and 5/8. I'm going to continue to sew the whole strip. Now I've sewn the whole strip. It's tight to start, but then once you get onto this narrower part, it's easier. That's how it should be. This is half of a 45-inch wide strip, so about 22 or 22.5 inches, depending on how much selvage you cut off. There we go. Now I'm going to snap that in and then sort of press these together. I know that right here is where I will put my little decoration, so I want to kind of keep track of that and distribute the fullness of the ruffle all the way around. Since I have this green thread in my machine, I'm going to go ahead and sew up this one as well. The next step is to make what I call the cameos. So this is an oval die for die cutting, and this one fits nice and tight around the face of the Santa, and this one's a little bit bigger, so it'll be more of a frame. Also keep in mind that the actual cutting edge here of the die is a little bit wider than what you see when you're looking through the frame. So this, I think I'm gonna like this one better, but I'll try them both. I've also used circle dies for this particular image, but I just think since he has that oval shape to his face, the oval is better. On the back of the fabric, I have ironed on some heat and bond. And I'm going to leave that heat and bond on there while I run this through my die cutting machine. So I'll run that through, try to get that centered, and I'll be right back. Here we go. Here's the smaller shape. It just pulls away very easily. And here's the bigger one. And I will peel these and iron them onto this red felt, but don't cut them out. So here we go, nice and shiny. Just gonna press that there, and I'll press this one onto here. I'm done with these. Okay, these are fused to the felt now, and don't cut out the felt. I know it's tempting, but it's easier to stitch. We're gonna stitch around the edge. I'm using a blanket stitch. It's kind of a heavy blanket stitch. It doubles over itself. And I can tell I'm going to want to make a little bit shorter legs on the stitch when I do the smaller shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do that machine decorative stitching around the edge of this one and then this one. Okay, this one is done. It looks really good, but I'm afraid that the little legs on these stitches are going to come in too far, so I'm going to shorten that one a little bit. This is like a triple blanket stitch. I'll be right back. Here are my cameos. I decided after shortening the little legs that then they were too far spaced. So I tightened up the length and the depth of the stitch. So I feel like that's proportionate to the size of the image. Now I'm going to cut these out just, you know, I don't know, however far that is. Not a 1/4 of an inch, probably more than 1/8 of an inch, but you know, you cut it out however far away you like. I like a little border of red showing. Also, if you like, you can do a contrasting thread. I mean, to me, the white kind of contrast, but you could do a red thread or a green thread or any thread you like. I try not to be too picky about the distance, like if it's not exactly all the way around, because, you know, you want to see the hand of the maker. I could probably find a die and die cut these, but isn't it nice to see the hand of the maker, maybe not exactly perfect? I always appreciate that. There we go. Okay, I can see that I guess his right, my left, has a little bit more showing like this. So to me, it looks like I want him to be looking into the center of the wreath from this side. Okay, I don't know if that made sense, but I'm feeling right here to find the part where the two pieces of the ends of the shower curtain ring hook together, and I can feel that's right there. So I'm going to make sure that's where I glue this, like that. Here's how it looks on the back. It's pretty neat. So I'm going to put some glue right along here. I am using my hot glue gun, and I'll just place that right like that. That looks good. And then I have my baker's twine ready to go to make a hanging loop. This will be the top here. So I'm going to stitch through, and I really want to stitch beneath the seam there. I just feel like that gives it a little bit of extra security. Not through the seam, but below the seam. I'll tie that, just an overhand knot with both strands like that. That looks good. And then finally, I'll tie a bow from some red gingham. You know, I'm trying to keep the embellishments similar on this collection, so you'll see the baker's twine and the gingham ribbon, or sometimes there's a red bow on all of the ornament designs. How does that look? Is that about right? That looks good. Now I like to put it at the top of the cameo like this. If I was smart, I would have started my embroidery up there. I actually started the embroidery down here in the white where the, I thought that if the stitches were a little bit uneven, they would be mostly disguised if I started in the white. But now I'm realizing that if I started up here at the top, that would have been fine too. And I'm going to glue the bow right there. And I'll place that. I don't want to put it too low because I don't want to cast a shadow over the face of the Santa. And I want it to be almost like the bow is like holding the cameo onto the wreath. Now I can tell you I definitely prefer this size, but I am afraid that the bow might be overwhelming. Here's where my ends are attached. So I'm going to put some glue here, right along here. There we go. I think I could even use a little bit more up here toward the top. That looks good. And then the hanging loop up here, below the stitching. There we go. And then my little gingham bow. These are really fast and easy. I'm going to make this bow a little bit smaller so it doesn't overwhelm that little cameo. Let's see. This is Hobby Lobby. That looks about right. And I'll glue that right to the top of the cameo. Cute. These are all with the taupe background. After making a few designs with the taupe, I decided I preferred the blue. Here I did the oval, and that's a little dog with a clown hat. And then here's the Santa with the taupe, but I did a circle that time. Here is the Nutcracker. Here's a circle with the polar bear. This one's really cute. And then here's another circle with the Santa. Once I accepted the idea that I was going to have to fussy cut into those images because they're so large for ornaments, I just kind of enjoyed it. Now here's some I made last year, the same idea, but different fabrics. This fabric had these little mice, and I thought they were cute. I did a black stitching around the edge, but honestly, I felt like this is just a little big. I did holly leaves and a little red bow, which is cute. I do like that. Anyway, I just wanted you to know you can do the same technique with any fabric that has a cute little motif like that. All right, so we are done. Which one do you prefer? It's funny how the Santa face looks bigger here, even though you know it's the exact same size. Thank you for watching my tutorial. If you're enjoying my videos, please like, share, and subscribe.